Continuing on with 7-5, some percents review for algebra. So I did forget to put something at the top. Shocking, I forgot something. Any kind of relationship with a percent. Percents are not linear relationships. And that's because if you start with 100 and you take 5% off of 100, you're left with 95. But if you go and take 5% off of 95, that's not exactly the same as taking 5% off as 100. So even though the percent that you're taking off or adding on stays the same, the number that you're taking the percent of or off does not stay the same. And that is why it's not linear. Percents are not linear relationships because the amount changes. Not the percent, just the amount that you're taking the percent of changes. All right, so example number 1 here. Barb went out to dinner and wants to leave a $22 tip on a meal that costs $56.78. Now, this is the key piece here. With only one calculation, I want to do this in one step. Can I absolutely go through and use the percent proportion and figure this out? Yes, I can do that. 22 over 100 is equal to x over my whole. But that's going to take no more than like 3 steps. First, I have to cross multiply, then I'll have to solve that equation, and then I need to add the tip back on. So not what you want to be using. With one calculation, that's where we're going to come with that percent equation. We're going to start using that. So that part equals whole times percent over 100. Well, you can start by getting in the habit of anytime you see a percent, dividing it by 100 to convert it into the decimal. So that 22% is going to turn into 0.22. So with one calculation, I'm going to find the tip by doing that total amount times that percentage as a decimal. 56.78 times 0.22. So $12.49. Okay. Now, again, with only one calculation, find the total bill. Can I take my $12.49 and add it back on? Yes, I can. But if we didn't know what the tip was to start with, this is how we could do that. If the meal, what percent of the meal is the cost of the meal? You know, the meal cost is the 100% of the meal cost. So that cost is 100%. If we add in that total plus adding in that tip, because a tip makes it more expensive, gives me 122%. Because I'm taking that total amount and I'm increasing it by whatever the tip is. I'm not decreasing it all. So taking that 122%, dividing it by 100 per usual, gives me 1.22. So I can find the total bill in one step by taking that 56.87 and multiplying it by 1.22. 56.78 times 1.22. And you will see that gives me $69.27, which would be exactly what we get if we took that original $56.78 and added my tip of $12.49 to get the $69.27. So yes, you can use the old school proportion, but you want to get in the habit of using the equation because it's just going to make your life easier. Less work, yay us. Okay, so if Jane's bill was a total of $142.39, which included or includes a $30 tip, who tipped at the higher percentage, Jane or Barb? So we got to compare Jane and Barb. We already have information about Barb up here. So Barb, we know that Barb had a tip of $12.49. But do we care how much the tip was, or do we care about who tipped at a higher percent? Because remember, two people can tip $5, but depending on what your bill is, will make $5 a good tip or a bad tip. You know, if your bill was $100 and you're only tipping 5, that's not a very good tip. But if your bill was only $10 and you're tipping 5, that's a good tip. So Barb tipped 22%, telling me right in the problem up there. Just got to read that. So now Jane, we've got to figure out Jane's percent. And you could do this a couple different options. You have a couple different options of figuring out what the percentage here. You can use that proportion or that equation. I'm going to go with the equation. Sorry, I got confused. Part equals whole times percent over 100. Obviously, the percent is the piece that I'm looking for, so that's the one I'm looking for. So the whole will be my total, right? That's my whole, that total bill. The percent is what I'm looking for, so I'm going to keep that over 100. And then the part was that 30. That part was the tip. The tip isn't the whole bill, the tip is part of the bill. All right, so I'm going to start by getting rid of this division by 100 by multiplying both sides by 100. That isn't the first step you have to do. You could also get rid of the 142 first. It all just depends on, what jumps out at you. So 3,000 is equal to 142.39 times that x that's left. Take one more step to get that x by itself and divide both sides by the 142 and 0.39. To get x is equal to 3,000 divided by 142.39 is equal to 21.1%. So, who tipped at a higher percentage, Jane or Barb? This is Jane over here. I want to label that. Barb was 22%, Jane was only 21. So, who tipped higher? Barb, because 22% is greater than 21.1%.